Hey everybody, I'm Shauna and welcome back to my channel, Shauna Missy Me HD. And today I am answering the questions of many of my TikTok followers who have asked, what type of student was I in high school? Did I always know that I wanted to become a doctor? Did I have a social life in college? How hard was college? And did I have a social life in medical school? Also, how did I pay for it?
Don't get me started.
Okay, excuse me, I have my phone with me because I don't want to forget any of the questions that I need to answer. But I'll start off with my experience in high school. And I think that a lot of my viewers want to know what type of student I was and see if it foreshadowed anything for me as far as what I ended up becoming. So I completely understand this question. I think it's a legitimate question to ask. But rewinding all the way back to 2006, which is when I started high school, from what I remember, I don't think I was the most studious student. Actually, I actually made it a daily effort to make sure all of my work was completed at school so that when I got home, home was exactly what that was, home. Watching TV, whatever, hanging out with friends. And then I actually played sports and had a job. I worked at Chick-fil-A while in high school. So I really didn't want to bring any of my schoolwork home with me. So I would say that I did everything I could to make sure school time was actually spent doing my work and not my personal time. With that being said, was I able to maintain good grades? I actually was. I made pretty good grades, A's and B's all my life. Never made a C until I got to college actually. And I just think that just came like from natural ability to understand concepts, learn math. I was a good reader, I was a good writer, or at least good enough to make A's and B's. And when I graduated, I had a 4.0 GPA on a 4.0 scale. To put things into perspective, I did not graduate in the top 10% of my class. I did not take any dual credit classes. I did not take any AP classes. Therefore, I started college with 0 credits. Not that I didn't think I needed to. Honestly, it wasn't really stressed at that time like it is now. I know a lot of high school students now are graduating with associate degrees and a lot of high school credits. For me, I was just not gonna put in the extra time and effort to study and test out of something. Like, it just wasn't me. Some of my high school classmates, they did 5 years of math, finished with calculus, and they also did 4 years of Spanish. And then if you kind of compare where I am to where they are now, some of them went on to do great things, some of them went on to do nothing. And so I would like to just encourage you guys that it doesn't matter what you are right now as a high school student, you still have plenty of time to change your path, change your direction. If you're not a studious person and you haven't been putting in a lot of effort, you didn't start your high school experience with challenging yourself, it is not too late, because I didn't either. Luckily, my GPA was good enough and I had good letters of recommendation that allowed me to get an academic scholarship to college. That is one of the reasons why I attended the undergrad that I attended, which is Texas Southern University, located in Houston, Texas. It is a HBCU. I would do it all over again if I had to. I have no regrets for going to the undergrad that I went to. Does my undergrad produce a lot of students who go on to go to medical school? No, they don't. But is it impossible? No, it's not. You can actually go to any college and major in any major and go to medical school. It's really about how you perform as an individual. As far as if I always knew I wanted to be a doctor, actually, I never grew up saying I wanted to become a doctor. I didn't pursue medicine until I was already in college, right? And so I'll be honest with you guys, when I first got to the point in high school where I would be graduating, and the question that my parents had for me is, okay, what do you want to do with your life? I actually wanted to be a youth leader. Like, I just wanted to be a mentor at my church or at a community center where I could just help change other people's lives by motivating them and inspiring them. And I also always wanted to be like a motivational speaker. And so I knew that I didn't need to go to college and get a degree to do those things, but I did need to make money. And so I was just like, well, Mom, I'll do whatever. It doesn't really matter. You know, what do you think I should do? And she was like, why don't you become a pharmacist? I was already a pharmacy technician in high school. after I quit Chick-fil-A, I began to work at CVS as a pharmacy technician in high school. She was like, well, you already work at CVS. How about you be a pharmacist? And I was like, okay. Like, there was literally no discussion or thoughts whatsoever. I just said, okay. So I was like, well, I might as well go to TSU. They have a pharmacy school. I can get this scholarship. Boom. It's decided. I'm going to TSU. So I end up at TSU, and I'm a pre-pharmacy major. And one day I hear about this program called JAMP, which I've already mentioned on some of my previous videos, but I hear about this program called JAMP and how it's supposed to help you become a doctor, and if you complete X, Y, and Z, you'll get guaranteed admission into med school. And when I heard that, I was literally sold. I was like, you know what? I think I can do this. I want to challenge myself a little bit more. I never thought I could become a doctor, but I want to see how far I can go. I want to see if I can do it. And so I switched my major. My parents are like, oh, don't start switching your major now. You don't want to graduate late. You know, they tell me all kinds of stuff. I'm stubborn. I didn't listen. I switched my major anyway. I applied for JAMP. I got in, and
look at me now. Look at me now. Oh.
But yeah, I got in, and obviously it worked out. But it wasn't that I had the passion or the motivation to become a doctor. It was more so that I finally saw an opportunity to become something that I had never even thought that I was capable of becoming. And that is why it's so important for me to do what I'm doing now with you guys, is to show you guys that, hey, a black girl who loves Chris Brown and Lil Wayne, who may not come from a family of wealth or a family of doctors and lawyers, who went to a HBCU, who does not have the best grammar, or who doesn't care to have the best grammar, you know, a girl like me can make it. And so I think that me having the opportunity to actually go to med school is what actually made me say, you know what? Maybe I have wanted to do something like this before. I just never did admit it or notice it. Maybe this was in me the whole time. I don't know. But that was really what got me on the path of pursuing medicine. So in summary, no, I did not always think that I would become a doctor, and no, I was not the best student in high school. I made enough A's and B's to get by and to land an academic scholarship, but I really did not put in a lot of effort, and I was not that serious with my studies. Okay, so what was my social life like in college? And that is so funny because, like, I think back to my freshman and sophomore year, and I don't remember anything. I don't remember anything I learned. I had an awesome freshman and sophomore year. I had so much fun, and by the grace of God, my GPA did not suffer. My first year, I ended up with a 3.7, and I took like 20 hours because at that time, the pre-pharmacy major, the degree plan is set to where you take 2 years of your prerequisites and then you apply to the program. And so they kind of front load a lot of your classes to make sure you've covered everything before you apply to the pharmacy program. So I was taking like 21 hours my first semester, and maybe 19 my second semester, and by the grace of God I was able to pull off a 3.7. And then sophomore year things got real. I think I was in organic chemistry 1 and 2, and I also pledged. And so my GPA did kind of take a hit. Not a bad hit, but it did take a hit. And I got a, I think I dropped down to like a 3.3 or 3.4, something like that. And I literally spent the rest of my undergraduate career getting it back up to a 3.7. I did not repeat any courses, but I just worked really hard to make sure that the next 2 years of my undergrad went very well, and that I made as many A's as I could, and it actually worked out for me. I was able to get my GPA back up to a 3.7. My science GPA, again, was just as good, if not better, than my overall GPA because I slacked in English. Like, I got B's in English, and I got B's in, like, sociology. I just didn't care, right? But by the time I got to the MCAT, is when I started to get serious. And the MCAT just... The first time I took that bad boy, like, it knocked all the wind out of me. I was definitely humbled after that because I realized that all of my BSing through high school and the beginning of college had come to an end. It was time to get serious, it was time to get focused, and it was time to actually put more time into my studies. So Middle of my junior year is when I got extremely serious. I realized that on my MCAT practice exams, things were not going well. I was just like, oh my God, Lord, you did it for me thus far, do it for me again, but I realized I had to meet him halfway. I had to do my part as well. And that is when I really got serious. And by that time, going into my senior year, I had already done most of my hard classes. I really didn't have anything to be serious about, but it did prepare me for medical school, because it allowed me to realize that, hey, this is not gonna come easy. Everything from here on out, I'm gonna have to work my butt off for, because this is a whole new level. This is not high school, this is not college, this is medical school, and a lot of people don't even make it into medical school. So if I make it, I need to learn how to stay afloat, right? And so I really got serious at that time. After saying all that, how hard was college? It really was not that hard for me. Again, I had a couple of classes where I struggled. Calculus was hard. Physics was hard for me because I didn't give it the attention that it needed. Organic chemistry was just hard, period. And then by the time I took immunology and biochem, I was already in that medicine mode, and I was a lot more interested in science. And even though those classes required me to study and put time in, they weren't hard for me because I was interested. It was definitely challenging, but I liked it and I learned. So social life in medical school, this is a huge question, and I'm so glad that you guys are asking, because it does matter. And I will be honest with you, if I had 24 hours in a day, right? Well, I do have 24 hours in a day. I would say that out of the 24 hours in a day, 6 hours are dedicated to sleeping. So I would try to go to bed by 11 or midnight and then wake up around 5 or 6. And that's because I was a TV watcher. I didn't care what was going on. I was not going to stop binging my favorite shows and watching my favorite movies. So I decided to sacrifice in my sleep. I drank coffee every day, and my body learned how to function off of 5 or 6 hours, which is really a good habit to already kind of develop, because that's how it is in residency. You'll be lucky to get 6 hours of sleep every night and still be able to study, work out, have fun with friends, and do your responsibilities at work. I was the type of person that went to class, surprisingly, but not only did I go to class at 8 a.m., I went to school early to study and pre-read before I went to class. So I would get to campus about 6:30, and I would stay all day during class, and probably leave campus about 4:30. So what is that, about 10 hours or so? So that's 10 gone, so that's 16 hours gone. And then I would go home and study from about 6 to 8 or 9 or 10, depending on how much I had to study. So that's another 4 hours gone. And then I would work out, and then I would watch TV for the rest of the day. That was pretty much my routine from the first year of med school all the way until I started clinical rotations, and then I kind of lost control of my own schedule, because you do what they tell you to do at that point. That's pretty much what I did, and that was my choice of social life, working out in the gym. I did that because I was stressed, and that was a easy way for me to relieve that stress, and it also benefited me, obviously, health-wise and fitness-wise. But then, like I said, what I chose to do was kind of just chill and just watch TV in my free time. I lived with my brother, so that was fun. He was in undergrad, I was in med school, so it was the perfect mix for me as far as being able to escape the med school life. I would just go home and chill with him. He would have his friends over sometimes. Sometimes he'd have parties and kickbacks, and I would actually participate because I needed that break. I wasn't in a relationship at that time, so that was easy. I didn't have to save time for other people and stuff like that. But then I did actually get into a relationship at the end of my second year in med school. And actually, I have been talking to this person, and this person is my fiance now. I have been talking to them for a whole year, but we didn't actually make it official until the end of my second year. And then I ended up getting pregnant, not because I wasn't being careful, but it was actually by choice. I knew that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with this guy, and I knew that the rest of my life wasn't going to get any easier as far as time, right? The next step was residency. I decided to have a baby at that time. So if you put that into perspective, you can still have a social life in medical school. People get married. People take time off if they lose a loved one. People take time off if they're sick. Medical schools are not super tedious like some of these nursing programs where you like have one little hiccup and then you're out of there. Not only was having a baby in medical school completely possible for me, my school was very, very understanding, and they were willing to do whatever they needed to do, whether it was giving me 2 months off, 3 months off, a whole half of a year, or an entire year. That's what they were gonna offer, and I didn't take that much time because it wasn't necessary. I was blessed enough to have a great pregnancy, and every rotation that I did and every attending that I worked with were understanding, and they never did put more on me than what I could handle, and it was actually great. But just to let you guys know, you can have a life in medical school. Are you gonna have to sacrifice in other areas? Of course. You can't let these things like compromise your education. It sets you back, of course, you know, but if you want to have a social life in medical school, you definitely can. And then last but not least, how did I pay for med school? So I like to say you're either gonna fall into 3 categories. Either you are a student who has financial support from family or a spouse, or you're someone who's in a special program and they cover the cost, like you end up on scholarship, or you're in the Army or something like that, or you get, you know, free tuition because your parents have whatever through the Army, or you're like me and you have to actually take out loans. There's 2 main umbrellas when it comes to how much medical school costs. So you have your tuition and your fees that everybody has to pay regardless, and then you have your living expenses in order to provide for yourself while you're in medical school because you can't work. So I kind of just broke down what my day in medical school would look like, and if I included a part-time job, then you're talking about not being able to start work until like 9 or 10 p.m. and then working how many hours and then waking up the next day and going to school. Like, it is literally impossible. And even if you work a part-time job, unless you're making like $20 an hour, how can you even support yourself off of that, right? So you have to either have someone paying your rent, someone paying your car note, someone paying your cell phone bills, Apple fees, Microsoft work, whatever you need, someone has to pay for that, or you have to get loans to pay for that. And in my case, I didn't have a spouse or parents who could provide that for me, so I had to take out additional loans in order to cover my living expenses. I don't know anyone who worked during medical school, and if you're watching this video and you work or you worked during medical school, please comment and share your experience with my viewers. I would love for you to kind of chime in and give me your opinion. But like I said, I don't know anyone who was able to actually work and provide for themselves throughout medical school. So that is how my debt got to $185,000, because even though tuition is on the cheaper end in Texas for medical schools, I still had to take out a lot of money to cover my expenses and make sure I was comfortable enough to not be stressed financially, because then that could compromise how I performed academically. So I hope that kind of gives you guys a little bit more insight on my experience as far as high school, college, and then med school as far as my social life and how I paid for it. I know you guys are going to have more questions. I love them. Keep them coming. Be on the lookout for the next videos. You know, I'm going to always have something about either what it's like going through this process, what I had to endure, what I experienced, or what you can do to strengthen your application to get there. Thank you guys, and y'all have a great day.